In this video, we are going to be adding and subtracting fractions. Example 1. Compute the sum and simplify your answer. Sum means add, so we're going to be adding these two fractions. The biggest thing that you need to make sure before you go to add or subtract fractions is you need to make sure that you have a common denominator. What that means is that the bottom of your fractions have to be the same number. And in our case, they are. They are both 12. So we have 10 over 12 plus 1 over 12. This is actually a very easy addition problem because when we're adding fractions, all we do is we add the numerators, which means we are just going to add the top two numbers, and the bottom is going to stay the same. So we'll have 10 plus 1 over 12. And then we're going to simplify the top. 10 plus 1 is going to equal 11 over 12. And it does say simplify your answer, and we're not going to be able to simplify this fraction. 11 is prime, and so this is as far as this fraction is going to go. Okay, so let's look at example 2. Compute and simplify your answer. This is going to be the same as example 1, except we're going to be subtracting. And so again, we have to have common denominators, which we do. Both of the bottoms are 12. And so all we're going to be doing is subtracting the top numbers. So we're going to do 7 minus 5, and 12 stays the denominator at the bottom. So 7 minus 5 is equal to 2 over 12. 2 over 12 can be simplified. They have a greatest common factor of 2, and so 2 is divisible by itself, and 12 is also divisible by 2, so that's how come 2 is the greatest common factor. So what we do to one number, if we divide the top number by 2, we got to also divide the bottom number by 2 in order to simplify that fraction. So 2 divided by 2 is equal to 1, and 12 divided by 2 is equal to 6. So that's going to be our simplified fraction after we do the subtraction. Example 3, compute the sum and simplify your answer. This time we do not have the same common denominator. The bottoms are not the same. We have a 9 and we have a 7. And so I'm going to show you a trick to make things a little bit easier. There's all kinds of different methods you can use to actually add these fractions because right now, the way that they are, we cannot add them. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to first multiply across the diagonals. So I'm going to start with the first diagonal here, 1 and 7. So I'm going to multiply those two numbers and I get 7. And then I'm going to go across my other diagonal, 9 times 2, and I'm going to get 18. And then I'm going to multiply the bottom numbers, 9 times 7, and I get 63. And so all this is going to translate is it's going to be 7 plus 18 all over 63. And so this now looks like our first example we did, and we're just going to add the numbers on top, and then 63 is going to stay the same. And so just to review that process, I just multiplied across the diagonals to get that 7 and that 18, and then I multiplied the two numbers at the bottom to get that common denominator of 63. And now I'm going to simplify 7 plus 18, which is equal to 25, and then the bottom number is 63. Now, this is simplified. 25 is only divisible by itself and 5, and 63 is not divisible by 5. So we know that this is going to be our simplified answer for example 3. Okay, let's look at example 4. This is our last example. This time we're computing and simplifying our answer for two fractions that don't have a common denominator, and we're subtracting this time instead of adding. And so I'm going to utilize the same method that I used in example 3, and I'm going to multiply across the diagonals. And so I'm going to start with the 2 times 9, and that's going to give me 18. And then I'm going to multiply 3 and 1 to get 3, and then I'm multiplying the two bottom numbers, 3 and 9. That's going to give me 27. Now I'm just going to translate it into the problem, and that's going to equal 18 minus 3 over the common denominator of 27. I want to make a note that it is important here when you're doing this method especially with subtraction, that you do want to do that first diagonal first, the one that I did first. You want to make sure that that's always the one that you start with, because with subtraction, you can't reverse the order. You'll get a different number. So you do need to make sure that you do that diagonal that I did first. So it'd be 18 minus 3 over 27. 18 minus 3 is 15 over 27. 15 and 27 does have a greatest common factor. They do have a number in common, and that number is going to be 3. So I'm going to divide both the top number and the bottom number by 3. 15 divided by 3 is going to be 5, and 27 divided by 3 is equal to 9. And so that's going to be our simplified answer for our fractions that we subtracted.